Alright folks, hey, I'm really sorry. This is Kevin Flike here with the weekly Wounded by War broadcast. This is the third attempt at this, having some technical difficulties right now. I know I'm wearing this MIT shirt right now, but I say that I'm the least technically proficient person at MIT, so please bear with me. Hopefully this whole broadcast will go through. And so, if you're just tuning in, this is the weekly Wounded by War broadcast, in which I've been talking about the 5 most important lessons that I've learned as a combat wounded Green Beret. Now, last week we talked about lesson number 4, which is, last week we talked about lesson number 4, which is don't feel sorry for yourself. And this is a lesson that I learned from a friend of mine who was also wounded, and he relayed this lesson to me in the intensive care unit at the Landstuhl Regional Medical Center in Germany. And so this message and lesson was incredibly important for me throughout my whole recovery. It's something that I still use today. So whenever I do feel like feeling sorry for myself, this message puts things into perspective for me. You know, as bad as things might get, I'm still very lucky to have my life. And so I was always very thankful to have this message. Now, even though my wounds were pretty severe, I always thought that I could just will myself towards getting better. Like no matter what, I always thought that I could have whatever I wanted in life if I just worked hard enough at it. And so after a couple of months of very intense physical therapy, I spent 4 to 6 hours a day at the 1st Special Forces Group Rehabilitation Center, things were going remarkably well. My stomach wound was healing very well, my hip was healing nicely, my abdominal strength was coming back, and a lot of this has to do with the great care that I was receiving from Anya Rapp, my physical therapist. She was my #1 advocate and one of my #1 motivators. And also from my strength and conditioning coaches, Jared Orrich, rest in peace, Rob Hartman, and Hunter Schurer. Those folks were my #1 supporting cast right there. And so with all of their support and their help, my injuries are coming back great, except for my left leg. Now, I had suffered some nerve damage from a gunshot wound. The trajectory had hit my femoral nerve. And so my left leg was suffering from complete paralysis. No matter what I did, no matter how much I worked, I couldn't will it to get any better. And every morning I would wake up and say, today's going to be the day. Today's going to be the day that my leg works. But every day it was the same result. My leg just dangled there. And so after some testing, we were all faced with a harsh reality that my leg was either going to stay the same way and not come back, or there would need to be a surgical intervention, an experimental surgery. At this point, my left leg, the muscle was atrophying and deteriorating away. It was just a little bit bigger than my left arm. So I was looking at this for the rest of my life. The situation seemed very bleak to me, but of course, Anya Rapp, my #1 advocate, didn't give up any hope, and she got a meeting at the University of Washington neurology department for me. And within a few minutes of the meeting starting, I could tell it wasn't going very well because the surgeon was having difficulty just reading my MRI. And so when he turned around, I could see the look on his face, and he told us that he was having so much trouble reading the MRI because of all the scar tissue on there. And he said, you know, not really much I can do for you here. Maybe you should try the Mayo Clinic. Now, I left that meeting dejected. You know, I went home and cried probably for a couple hours that night, just thinking that this was the rest of my life, that I would just have this leg that would pretty much just atrophy and wither away to the bone, basically. But Anya never gave up. And a couple of days after the meeting, I came back into work. She had a big smile on her face. She said, I've been talking to the Mayo Clinic, and they think that they can help you out. So I went out to the Mayo Clinic and talked to a bunch of their doctors, and they were doing an experimental surgery in which they could do a nerve grafting to hopefully get the connectivity going again to my left femoral nerve. They wanted to make another cut in my abdominal, cut the damaged part of my nerve out. They wanted to cut a nerve from my leg, cut from the ankle to up to 3/4 of the way at my thigh, and try to graft that in to get connectivity going again so that I would be able to move and use my left leg. Now, this was a lot to think about for my wife and I, and we really had to go back and forth and deliberate the pros and cons of it. See, we could do the surgery, but we didn't even know what the result was going to be. And then we wouldn't even know for almost a year if it was successful or not, because nerve regrowth is about 1 inch a month. Now I'd have to get my stomach cut open again. I'd have to start physical therapy back from day 1. And then I'd have to go back on painkillers again also. All things that we really had to think about. But when we weighed all the pros and cons, we decided that if we didn't take this chance and do this surgery, then we'd have to think about this for the rest of our lives and what might have been. And even if it didn't work, there was a great possibility that somebody else could benefit from this. And so over 4 years later, I'm standing here before you, incredibly thankful that I did that surgery, thankful to the surgeons and everybody at the Mayo Clinic for all of their help with it. But it was even more difficult than I thought that it was going to be, having to start that physical therapy again, and then having to start taking painkillers again. When I got back from that surgery, I realized just how long and how difficult the road to recovery was going to be for me. And we would measure progress in inches. And that would be inches that I could maybe move my leg. However, it took months for me to notice the first improvement of there. I had to go in every single day into physical therapy just with the hope that this surgery took. And after probably 6 months, my leg twitched a little inch. And a couple months later, there was a little bit more. And a couple months after that, we had full extension. And then a couple months after that, was able to start doing some running on a anti-gravity treadmill. Now this was an incredibly dark and tough period for me. And there was a lot of points where I thought that I was going to lose hope. However, no matter how bleak it got, there was one common theme. It was a common theme that I learned from my childhood, from my time as an athlete in high school and college, my special forces training and deployments, is to never give up. I never gave up one time throughout it, no matter how much I wanted to. Because I knew if I gave up, the outcome was certain. That it was just going to be what it was. But I knew that if I didn't give up, there was a possibility that things could really take off for me and I could get my leg back. And looking back now, as I'm able to chase my kids around the house or the yard, go for a couple of runs a week, I'm so happy I didn't give up. But the most important thing is that everybody else didn't give up on me. My wife, who's been with me since I was 18 years old, or since we were both 18 years old, we got married when we were 23. She was with me through all my deployments. She never gave up on me once. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't the happiest person all the time when I came back with all these injuries and was on all these painkillers. I was pretty grumpy. And a lot of times I took a lot of my frustrations out on my wife. But no matter what, she never gave up on me. Even the time that she was giving me a sponge bath right after I got back, and I said, hey, do you want to get a divorce? And her response, of course, was, no, stupid. I'm giving you a sponge bath right now. There's so many people out there that I have to thank for this. But like Anya, who never gave up on me, even though I thought that the situation was bleak. She still kept putting forth effort every single day for over a year and a half to ensure that my recovery was going to go great. The same with Hunter, Rob, and Jared. All my friends, my family, and my teammates, I want to thank every one of you for never giving up on me. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for the support of all this incredible community that's lifted me up here. And so I know that everybody that's been watching these videos through lesson 1, 2, 3, 4, and now 5 has gone through some very hard times in their lives. Or you're going through hard times right now, or you will be going through hard times in the future. And there's going to be a decision point during that hard time. Should you give up or should you keep going? And I want to encourage you, as somebody who's been through hell and back, never give up, no matter how hard or how difficult or how bleak the situation is. Because if you give up, you'll always have to ask yourself for the rest of your life what might have been. And also, you'll never really quite know the impact that you'll have on other people. There's so many people that played a role in my recovery process. So many people that said some words of encouragement that they probably don't even remember saying to me, but just really stuck out. And those were the things that I needed to hear that day. Those are the people that never gave up on me and stayed with me the whole time. And so I want to encourage all of you out there to never give up on anyone, especially if you believe in those people just the way that everybody believed in me. And so I've had an incredible time doing these 5 lessons. Now originally I just wanted to do the 5 lessons and see how it went. But the response from everybody has been overwhelming. The support has been incredible. And so I want to keep going. I want to keep sharing my story with everyone. I feel like I have so much more that I can share with everyone. But I want to hear from you. What do you want to hear from me? What aspects of my story do you want to hear about? Please, send me private messages, post on the wall, You can reach me through email on my website. Send a carrier pigeon. I don't care how you get a hold of me. If you got my personal cell phone, call me. I want to know what you want to hear about on these live broadcasts so that I can hopefully inspire as many people as possible. So once again, thank you so much for all of your support. If you were inspired by this video, please share it. And if you want to know more about the story, please go to www.woundedbywar.com. Thank you so much. Have a great night.